Hey guys, and welcome back to Inspired by Jerica Brochet, and welcome back to the Zodiac Signs mini-series where we have been going through, journeying through the Zodiac Signs by Polarity. So if you are new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for being here. Be sure to check out my welcome video so that you can learn a little bit more about myself. If you are returning, what's good? Thank you for your loyalty. Just coming back and hanging out with me. I appreciate it. So some of you may know that we have been going through the mini series of this zodiac journey thing we have going on, and it's been quite fun. We're on, I think, we're a little over halfway at this point. So I want to say we maybe have 4 more signs to go, and then that will be it. So today we are going to be talking about the sign of Cancer. So if this is the first video of the series that you have clicked on, I definitely recommend that you watch the next portion that I'm going to get into, which is the introduction, a very quick introduction, very basic introduction to astrology, at least in regards to how I view it and how I practice, as well as an introduction to zodiac signs, especially if you're looking to learn. So essentially what I've been doing with this series is, if you've ever wondered like why the signs do what they do, how do these signs get their meanings, why do we describe Cancer the way that we do, that's sort of what I break down and kind of get the information from and put it all together so that we can get a good interpretation and understanding of each particular energy or each particular sign. So what we've been doing, I only have been recognizing the 5 traditional planets in addition to the 2 luminaries. So you'll only really hear me discussing Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune, plus the luminaries, the sun and the moon. Not going to hear too much about Pluto, Uranus, or Neptune, and that is because those are more modern rulerships, and I do prefer to approach astrology from a traditional lens. So just those 5 plus the 2 luminaries. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. We'll do a quick introduction to astrology. Again, if you have been already following the series or you're quite familiar already, check the timestamps below, and you can definitely skip this part and just jump into talking about the big 4 for Cancer. So, all right, quick introduction to astrology. Astrology derives from the Greek word astro, meaning star, and logos, meaning language or knowledge or information. Astrology is a language of the stars and or the knowledge or the information that we get from the heavens or from the stars. So it really is a way of communicating. It is a living, breathing language because we have a living, breathing, moving sky at all times. Astrology studies the correlation between the movements of the celestial, which are the planets and the stars, so the celestial bodies, and the terrestrial, meaning earthly or terrain, events that happen on Earth. So it operates under the universal law of correspondence. And if you're familiar with any of the Hermetic principles or any of the universal laws, you may be familiar with the law of correspondence, which basically states the axiom, as above, so below, as within, so without. So there's this idea that you have a whole system or a macrocosm, and within that whole system is a microcosm or a lesser but still whole systems, and they sort of mirror each other, and so they reflect, and what happens on one level can happen on the other level. You will see those consequences reflected. Okay. Whatever is born or done at a particular moment in time inherently has the qualities of that moment. And astrology describes the nature of those moments. So time is of the essence when it comes to astrology, because there's something very karmic about time. And so the idea is that when you are born at a specific time, of course, all of the celestial bodies are at certain places, different places within the sky. And so those energies are said to have an effect on you. And so an example that I've given in previous videos is that of a wine connoisseur or somebody who practices as a sommelier, which is a person who just by tasting wine, they would be able to tell you what vineyard the wine may have come from, the type of grapes or fruit that are used or that are in it, the year of the wine, or what part of the world the wine was curated in. And so astrology and our birth charts sort of act like that. By looking at your birth chart, we're able to get a sense or an idea of your energy and your energetic makeup. Now, in regards to the signs, zodiac derives from the Greek word zodiakos, which means circle or a little circle of animals. So this is sort of where the word zoo stands from. Zodiac, or the zoo, it has to do with animals. And the signs are actually birthed from a combination of interactions between the four elements, which produce the four seasons, and the modalities in which they operate. So we know that in most parts of the world, you're going to be able to experience four distinct seasons. At least in the Northern Hemisphere, we tend to be able to do that. And each season has a beginning, a middle, and a transition. And so the beginning, middle, and transition is what we call in astrology the modality. And so when you combine the four distinct seasons times the three modalities in which they operate, 4 times 3 is 12, and that is how you get the 12 zodiac signs. Now, contrary to popular belief, the signs are not the stars of the show. And a lot of pop astrology or modern astrology can definitely lead you to think that the zodiac signs themselves are the essence or the juice of the birth chart. And honestly, they're not. The true stars of the show would be the planets, because the planets are the energies. And the signs are just a mode of expression for those energies. So you can sort of think of the planets like a person. It's an actual embodiment. And then the signs are like the wardrobe. So the wardrobe doesn't really matter much if there's not a body to put it on, you know? And that's sort of how it works when it comes to the signs and the planets. So try to look at it that way if you've never considered that before. Okay, are we ready to jump into Cancer? Let's go. All right, you guys, the big four for Cancer. The gender for Cancer is yin, feminine. Some people might say nocturnal. The element is water. The modality or mode in which it operates is cardinal, or some may say tropical. And the planetary ruler for Cancer is none other than the moon. So this is a big one because you have two signs in particular that are ruled by the luminaries, and Cancer is one of those signs. Cancer being ruled by the moon, and then Leo being ruled by the sun. So let's get into what yin looks like, yin energy. And we have touched on some yin signs. Anytime we're dealing with a water sign or an earth sign, they are automatically going to be yin signs in regards to their gender. So yin energy is repressive. It is receptive, introverted, and guarded. Yin energy is very internal. It's the dark, so it can be the intangible, something that is not easily seen, but is really more so felt or intuited, something that is happening very privately, that it's very hard for somebody else to be able to witness. Now, water being the element for Cancer, water is generated from the temperamental qualities of cold and moist. And if you've been watching the videos, you may be starting to get familiar with the temperamental qualities. The primary qualities are hot and cold. And then the combination and interactions with hot and cold then produce two passive qualities of moist and dry. Okay. And so for Cancer, Cancer being a water sign, water is cold and moist. So the cold part of uh, Cancer, or any of the water signs for that matter, is what gives the quality that is very contracting. It can be very dense. Water is very heavy when you collect a lot of it, right? And it is very fluid and it is absorbent, right? It has these absorbing qualities. You know, if you drop anything into water, it is going to be sucked in and completely engulfed by that water. And then the water also is very there's adaptability to it, flexibility and malleability to be able to take the forms of different containers or different things. It lacks boundaries. Now the dry part, I'm sorry, not the dry, the moist part is also what adds that plasticity to the water element. And so water actually carries the phlegmatic temperament as well. And so it does give the water signs more of a focus on emotionality and the subtleties, as well as emotional security. So the water signs tend to be very intuitive because they have a keen sense of being able to recognize the subtle things, the things that are just barely there. They're able to really tap into that. And so you'll see that expressed in Scorpio and Pisces as well. Now, Cancer is also a cardinal sign. So, of the three modalities that we talked about, remember I mentioned how each season has a beginning, middle, and transition. And the terms that we use in astrology for that would be cardinal, representing the beginning, fixed, which is the middle of the season, and then mutable, which is the transition phase of the season. Cancer is cardinal. So that means that Cancer energy likes to initiate things and it likes to drive things. And this is because if we're talking about what's going on, at least in the northern hemisphere in the sky during Cancer season, this is a solstice standpoint for us. This is the summer solstice. So Cancer season marks the beginning of summer. And it is during Cancer season that its counterpart, the sun, is at its highest point in the sky. And so, sort of like the moon phases, how the full moon phase is actually a part of the waning cycle, Cancer is sort of on the waning end of the astrological year, because once you've reached the highest peak, you can only go down from there. So Cancer energy can be represented by the beginning of summer and what those energies are like. So again, cardinal energy likes to begin things, start things, initiate. It likes to drive things, meaning that it likes to be at the wheel sometimes. And we talked about that a little bit with the Capricorn video, and how I actually mentioned that I had learned from somewhere, somebody had mentioned that all of the cardinal signs have a sense of entitlement. And I mean, you have Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, and Aries as the cardinal signs, and they all begin a season. They're the forerunners of the season. So I could totally see how there can be that sense of entitlement a little bit. But being the beginning of the season, they usher it in, they drive it forward. And so cardinal energy likes to be doing something. It's very action oriented. And it's an energy that can just go head and first. So it can sometimes come off a little bit it can influence a person to be impulsive and quick moving. And it's very present oriented. It's worrying about what's going on right now. It's not too much in the past, not too much in the future, very much present for cardinal energy. The moon planetary ruler is the moon, y'all. All right, Jerica, here you go. Here you go doing that thing you do. Sorry. Cancer's planetary ruler is the moon, And the moon represents a lot of things, okay? The moon is the closest celestial body to Earth. And so she is said to be um, associated with the body, going from spirit to matter because things are actualizing. And so she's represented as the mother, and she can represent the mother or a mother figure in the birth chart. She's our place of origin and where we come from, our roots. She rules all things that she rules all containers. And what is the body but a container for the soul, right? She rules emotions. She is our memory. And that's another thing that is also associated with other water signs, but definitely the moon has a way of remembering things. So when we know that our bodies hold memory, it remembers traumas and things like that. The intuitive knowing, the ability to relate and respond. So the moon also shows us how it's sort of our knee jerk reaction to things. So the moon in our charts and the sign that it's in, so that is going to color how it is expressed, can really show how we impulsively respond to something without thinking. And that's why I say it's sort of a knee jerk reaction. So something happens and your unconscious thought or action just sort of takes over. That is typically going to stem from your moon sign having an impression on you. How we nurture ourselves. The moon base is about nurturing and nourishing. And so the moon in our charts can show us how we want to be nurtured. It can sort of show us our love language, if you're familiar with love language. Venus definitely can too, but so does the moon from a sense of nurturance. The moon can represent the unconscious, and that is because it is nocturnal. So sometimes things aren't always what they appear to be. So reality and what it looks like can be a bit of confusion, and that can definitely be one of the differences with the polarities of Cancer and Capricorn. The moon is our patterns, again, memory. So the moon is also associated with habits. And then we have matter. I talked about that. And then, oh, I've got origin on here twice. So that's very important. The moon is related to our place of origin. And so the moon is primarily characterized by its moist quality. And similar to the planet Mercury, the nature of the moon can vary, and it is said to be able to alternate between acting as a benefic planet versus a malefic planet. And so the idea is that when the moon is in its waxing phase, meaning that it's gaining fullness, which means it's gaining more light, it is said to be more benefic because light is associated with benefic things and goodness and purity because it's authentic and it can be nothing but itself. When the light shines on you, everything is seen, right? So there's more light, and heat, which is substantial to growth, is increasing. So the waxing phase of the moon is said to be more benefic. Now, it is said to be more malefic in nature when it is in its waning phase, and that is because it is losing light and it is losing heat. And so when you have the loss of light, again, things may not be as they seem. And so you got a little bit of trickery that can get in there, or you can find that you are being manipulated or you're being manipulative. And so you kind of have that illusion or disillusionment that can kind of go on. So yeah, that's pretty much, for the most part, I think we got pretty much the big four for Cancer: yin, water, cardinal, and moon. And so then when we merge all of those interpretations that we just derived from the big four, that is how we are getting the true energetic essence of Cancer in a Cancer environment. So Cancer then is an energy that is very intuitive. They are sensitive. They can be quite moody, again, because of the cyclical nature of the waxing and waning phases. So yeah, there's going to be like peaks and valleys or ups and downs and lots of movement and fluidity when it comes to a sign like Cancer, especially when it comes to their emotions or their feelings. They can be quite nurturing. Again, the moon is associated with the mother archetype. And in medical astrology, Cancer rules over the breast and the stomach. And, when a woman is pregnant, there's the stomach. You're literally nurturing something in the womb. And then, of course, you have the breast, which is actually your way of being able to feed and nurture that which you have given birth to. So yes, Cancer is very homey and nurturing in that sense, thanks to that influence from the moon. Cancer can be a bit indirect, its animal symbology or symbolism is the crab. And the crab does not walk forward, it walks in this zigzaggy sideways sort of pattern. And so Cancer energy can be a little bit indirect, and that can come off a little bit deceiving, or some people may not like that because it, again, nocturnal. It's not, it can be passive aggressive, where it's like not really showing the truth of how something really is, and yeah, so there's a little bit of that that goes on. It can be protective and defensive, and that stems from nurturing. I know some people don't really associate nurturance with protectiveness, but hey, a mother bear is going to protect her cubs. And so there is a protective, sometimes, if not in the best light, can be a little bit possessive. But I'm gonna leave possession to Scorpio energy, and we're gonna use protective for Cancer energy. So yes, the Cancer energy can be very defensive or on the defense to protect the things that it feels belongs to them. And they, so I guess they can kind of have possession in a way, right? I'm sorry, Scorpios. It's not just y'all. Cancer can be a little bit territorial, in some ways too. They can be a little possessive like that as well. Um, Cancer energy can be a bit shallow. When you think of where the crab's habitat is, it's on the shallow end of the beach. It's not going to be in the deep waters, but it's and the tides are coming in and out. So crabs are in an environment that is ever changing, and looks very different. And so there can be a shallow sort of vibe to Cancer sometimes. They can be emotionally impulsive, and that's because they are already going to be very emotional due to the moon's influence. But again, they're cardinal, right? So there will be a little bit of impulsivity to their emotions. They can jump to conclusions about how they feel. Again, with Cancer, is less about the reality and more about how it looks to them, how it appears to them. Cancer can be very codependent to home or family, which can make them a little bit clingy. And we have to consider that the crab lives in it. I mean, its shell is its home, right? I mean, that's why their shells are so hard. They've got their clampers, and they're going to defend themselves because they literally carry their homes on their back, almost similar to that of a turtle or a tortoise. They are a bit cautious. And again, that's how you protect things. You can't just assume something's going to always be good for you. So, they can be sometimes a little bit pessimistic in that way, where they are just very I guess I'll just continue to use the word cautious. It'd be very cautious about what they're doing. Of course, they can be crabby. They're the crabs. And we talked about their moods and, that mood swing and their emotions and how they feel fluctuating quite often. They can't help it, you guys. They are pulled by the tides of the moon, okay? And they can be creatures of habit. Again, they carry their home on their back, and water is associated with memory. The moon is associated with memory, as far as the memory being held in the body. So sometimes they can hold on to emotions that they may need to let go of, and it's because they remember. They're going to remember what you have done to them, as most water signs will. And so that can make them creatures of habit, and they can definitely get into patterns. And thanks to the moon, we are able to remember our patterns. We can create habits, and there are portions of our lives that can actually run almost off of an autopilot due to the influence of the moon. And that's probably why the moon has her joy in the third house. And she was said to, in that third house is said to be the goddess, and so being creatures of habit, you think about rituals, and rituals are a part of, it's one of the significations for the third house is your local environment, the rituals that you do on the daily. And it is said to be a very spiritual house, in addition to its polar opposite, which is the ninth. But we may have to do a series for the houses, and get a little bit more into that. Okay, so planets that are visiting Cancer's domain, they're going to be fluctuating, ever changing. Things are going to wax and wane. It can be a little bit more, planets can be a little bit more indirect when in Cancer. Delusional or illusions could be a factor again, and that's because of that nocturnal presence and that influence of just seeing things as they appear or what you think they look like versus what they are. A good example for that may be, have you ever been into like a dimly lit room? Maybe somebody walks into the room or something is walking towards you, and your initial glimpse of it, it looks one way, and your mind is computing, like trying to figure out the memory in your mind to say, where have I seen hair like that or a build like that? Like your mind literally is calculating, going through your memory to try to slowly put an image together to give you an idea of what you're looking at. So you'll start to guess, but as the person comes closer or the object becomes closer to you, the more you're able to see because there is illumination from the light. So now you're going from what you thought it was when it was more shadowy and in the dark, and as it comes closer into your view, now you know for sure what it is, right? And that's how it can be with the moon's influence versus the sun's influence, or even Cancer versus Capricorn, looking at things for what they are versus with Cancer, what they might be. And planets that are visiting Cancer's domain might be a little bit homey. They may be looking for a sense of home, or when passing through the Cancer house, may find themselves a little bit more dependent, or codependent than what they may like to be. So wherever you have Cancer in your chart is going to be an area that you nurture and that you're going to want to nurture. It's an area that you may be a little bit overprotective of, and the experiences that happen on that house are probably going to change up quite a bit. All right, you guys, let's jump into the polarity for the Cancer sign, and that is the sign of Capricorn. So as you guys know from the other videos, when we're talking about the universal law of polarity, polarities are just two sides of the same coin. And so things that appear to be opposite or contradictory are actually the same thing. So they are identical in nature, but then they differ in degree. Okay. And so when we're talking about the polarity of Capricorn and Cancer, we're essentially talking about the same energy, yet the extreme expressions which splits, because we live in a world of duality and polarity. So you have the same thing, but you have opposite expressions. And so that's where you have Capricorn on one end, Cancer on the other end. So where they are identical in nature is the fact that both Cancer and Capricorn are cardinal and yin. So if you go back, or if you want to rewind back, if you need to, going back to the big four slide, we talked about cardinal energy, we talked about yin. So for Capricorn and Cancer, they are both going to be internal, repressive, receptive, and guarded. They both will have that in common. Both Cancer and Capricorn can be very hard on themselves. Some of the internal conflict with them is all happening on the inside. The difference is that Capricorn, being earth, they're going to keep it to themselves, probably going to hold it all in. They are ruled by Saturn, so they're not about to be expressive and emotionally in tuned with some of those feelings that they are holding on to. Whereas Cancer, being ruled by the moon, it is going to wear its feelings and emotions on its sleeve, on its face, its body language. You're going to know exactly how a Cancer feels. And so they both do have that yin energy, but then they also are both cardinals. So both Capricorn and Cancer like to be the boss. They both can be bossy and they want to be in the driver's seat, just as Libra and Aries can be sometimes. They both initiate, except for their priorities are different. Capricorn's priorities are going to be more earth sign oriented. So it's going to be about resourcefulness, practicality. Is the thing useful? Is it something I can rely on? And more importantly, have I done it before? Because Capricorn tends to like to be traditional. Whereas on the Cancer side with water, its focus is going to be, or its priority is going to be based off of emotional security, its feelings, and its ability to flow and ebb and basically have that malleability that it needs to be, what am I trying to say here? Essentially to be able to take the shape of whatever container that it's in, and having that flexibility to change in that sort of way. And so Cancer, being a water sign, offers the experience of change, trusting your intuition, and flowing with the waxing and waning to Capricorn, because Capricorn lacks that. Capricorn offers more structure and discipline to Cancer. It's going to offer independence. So, Capricorn is like, yeah, all of that codependency stuff, so when the Cancer is where the Cancer energy lacks, it can swing over to the other side of Capricorn and tap into that energy to help balance itself out. And it happens vice versa. And if you study like the Kabbalion or any of the Hermetic principles, you know that with the law of polarity specifically, they talk about how you have the ability for the pendulum swing to go from one end to the next end, because remember, it's the same thing. Essentially, it's the same energy in nature, but they're just on the opposite end of the spectrum, but it's the same spectrum nonetheless. So a Cancer definitely has dormant Capricorn qualities, and Capricorn has dormant Cancer qualities. And so you just have to intentionally do the work in order to experience the opposite energy. So I hope that makes sense. So let's go ahead and jump into where you may have Cancer in your birth chart. So on the screen here, we have essentially a Cancer rising chart. Yes, as I said in previous videos, some of the glyphs will show up backwards, and that's just because in order to get the graphic to show as a Cancer rising sign, I sort of had to flip it and twist it and turn it in order to do that, which causes the glyphs to be backwards. So sorry about that. Nevertheless, let's get started, guys. And we are doing this based off of your rising or your ascendant sign. So, kicking off with Aries. If you are Aries rising, you're going to have Cancer on the fourth house of home, family, your origin, your private self, your roots, upbringing, all of that. So for Aries, you may be very protective of your home. You're going to go to battle and fight for your own, and you may want home to be very nurturing. Being that you're such a fire sign, it's like when I go out in the world, I'm okay with being fiery and being the warrior. But when I come home, I want to be loved on. I want to be able to show emotions that I would never show out in public. Sorry, you guys, that's my 11:11 alarm. Let me actually turn that off. Hold on. Okay, there we go. So yeah, Aries rising, you may definitely want to be able to be a little bit more softer, a little bit more nurturing, in private. For Taurus rising, you are going to have Capricorn, Lord, Cancer energy on your third house of information, your local environment, your siblings, and as I mentioned earlier in the video, your daily rituals. And so for Taurus rising, having Cancer on the third house, you may like to have, you may be really good at establishing habits for yourself and being consistent with how you choose to move about your day from a ritual standpoint. Maybe you have siblings that either have a lot of Cancer energy in their chart, or they tend to, maybe they are Cancers. They act like Cancers, or you have that sense of home and that closeness, or maybe there's a tribal feeling, or maybe your local environment, like where you live or the places that you like to spend your time, you prefer to have that homey, clicky, nurturing sort of environment that Cancer would offer. Gemini rising, you have Cancer energy on your second house of personal resources, earnings, so how you earn and spend money, habits, again, spending habits, and the things that you value or you find important. So for a Gemini rising, the things that belong to them, they're probably quite protective over. They're willing to grow the things that they find value in. They're willing to invest in the things that they find value in and to be committed to it, because Cancers are also said to be very loyal. And again, that can be because of being creatures of habit. So the thing is, are you loyal because you just choose to be, or are you loyal because it's just become a habit? That's something for Gemini rising to think about. Cancer rising, this is your sign. So you're going to, of course, have this on the first house. This in the first house is more, it's the most representative of the querent or the person to whom the chart belongs. So you're going to feel this very personally. You probably resonate with a lot of what's been said in this video, and you're going to feel this in your personality, in your behavior, your vitality, and your health. So basically, Cancer rising, a lot of this whole video definitely would pertain to you. Leo rising, you're going to have Cancer energy on the 12th house. This is the shadow self, the privacy of the psyche. This is the unconscious, our blind spots, and where we go when we are in a place of solitude. So for Leo rising, being that this would be a blind spot for you, you may not realize how much you need that Cancer energy, how much you need that softness, that mothering figure that will be able to give you a sense of home. You know, being Leo, you can be very independent, and you may not realize that a little bit of depending on somebody else for a change, it may actually do you some good. But if you meditate, you get into a place of solitude, and you're working on yourself, you'll definitely be able to tap more into the Cancer energy in your chart. Virgo rising, you have Cancer energy on the 11th house of friends, your groups, your community, like-minded people, and social interactions. So for Virgo risings, you might get along very well with Cancers, or you may have friends or social groups or organizations that you are drawn to that have Cancer type qualities. Or maybe you are a Cancer type person with your friends. Virgo can be a lot about servitude and being of service to others. And so when you are in organizations or groups, you may find that you mother people a little bit, or you find yourself caring for them in some sort of way, even maybe protective of your friends, or of your reputation, potentially. That could be more 10th house, but being out there in the world. For Libra rising, you have Cancer energy on the 10th. So this is the career, the public self, reputation, responsibility. So Libra rising, you definitely care about how you show up in the world, and you can be very protective over your reputation, how you come off and how you look. You want to be seen as nurturing. You want to be seen as mothering to people. And you may have careers that change constantly. You may feel like you can't stay in the same place too long, but home is where the heart is. So you're comfortable with moving on to other things. For Scorpio rising, you are going to have Libra energy. You're going to have Cancer energy on your 9th house of spirituality, international or long distance traveling, philosophy, and higher learning. So for the Scorpio rising, you may want to travel very comfortably. You may feel like everywhere can be a little bit homey. And that's because you tend to want intimacy with people. You want to go deep with people. And so you may have a very cancering protective type of energy when it comes to your spirituality or that higher learning. You may really get enveloped emotionally, and you may have a devotion or emotional connection to the things that are of the higher self, or again, religion, spirituality, or higher learning. For Sagittarius rising, you're going to have Cancer energy on the 8th house of other people's stuff. It's opposite of the 2nd, so it's other people's resources, other people's spending habits. It deals with death and taxes and traumas and psyche and the occult, the hidden stuff, right? And so for Sagittarius rising, you may find that you are very nurturing to others' things. Maybe you are a caretaker, or you're able to really treat another person's things as if they were your own. You may be more willing to share the things that are yours. It's like what's mine is yours, mi casa su casa kind of situation going on. You may also find that you are comfortable with getting emotionally attached with somebody else, or at least getting into the psyche of another person. Um, yeah, I think that's it for Sag rising. For Capricorn rising, you're going to have Cancer energy on the 7th house. This is our relationships, our one-on-one interactions, areas where we are committed, partnerships, legal agreements. So for Capricorn rising, having Cancer on this chart, you this is your opposite sign. So you are looking for partners and people who are everything that you are not. And isn't that a very strategic, calculating thing for a Capricorn rising to want? They'll understand where they fall short. And so they intentionally will want a partner that is able to have strengths where they may have weaknesses. And so because they're so strong and all that, and they have their boundaries and their limits, they're ruled by Saturn, they may need to attract people, or they may be attracted to people who are opposite of that. For Aquarius rising, you are going to have Cancer energy on your 6th house of daily routine, altruism, your work, maybe what you do for a living on the day to day, or your sense of duty. So Aquarius rising probably feels like they have to mother the world, they have to save the world, they have to fix everybody. They're the teachers, you know. They may feel that they have to be almost a provider from a nurturing standpoint to the world, or where they find that they feel a sense of duty to. And then last, we have Pisces rising. Pisces rising, you have Cancer on your 5th house of fun, creativity, the risky stuff. This is where we take risks. This is where we express ourselves. And so for Pisces rising, you may find that you're very creative. You probably have waxing, waning, or fluctuating things that you get joy out of, or that you find yourself able to express yourself. The way that you express yourself maybe fluctuates and changes quite often. And you may find that the things that you take pleasure in are things that are close to home, or maybe seem like the more simple things, or just simply being around a small group of friends or something like that, you know, may be your thing.
Hey guys, future me tapping in for a second here. As I'm editing this video, I've realized that I wanted to mention for the Pisces rising that the 5th house is also about children. So you may also find that you love doing the mother archetype type of things, and you really enjoy either being creative with children, creating children, or maybe you write books for children, or you like kids, or something like that. That is a possibility as well. Okay, carry on.
All right, you guys, we've gone through all of the rising signs. Where do you have Cancer energy in your chart? And do you have the sun, moon, or ascendant in Cancer? Because if you do, then a lot of the information that I gave you guys in this video is probably going to resonate for the sun, moon, and rising Cancer people. So again, you guys, my name is Jerica Brochet. Thank you so much for watching this video. Right now, I am offering a 30 to 45 minute personality assessment, or personality analysis rather, of your birth chart at the time that I am uploading the video, you guys. So don't be 6 months later, you know, I might not be offering the same reading. So, you know, as of right now, though, you can check the description box below, and I've got instructions and links on how you can reach me if you are interested. Again, I am a spiritual maven, astrologer, certified Usui Reiki master, and a certified integrative healing arts practitioner. Got the receipts, okay? And I want to help you guys get to know yourself energetically. That's why I'm even doing this series, so that you can get more familiar with what the expression of these energies are like, and be able to see yourself represented. Anyway, follow me on social media. My Instagram right there is at msjerib. And yes, thank you guys so much for your time today. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. And that's it, you guys. I will see you in the next video. Bye.